Bliss and power every hour. Hope your world is shaping up extraordinary for you. Genghis Khan, Bishop on the scene, just getting ready to head out to the hot spot to go get some more change going. I'm getting dressed for work, and I wanted to drop a quick message that was on my heart. I was thinking about an old relationship, thinking about a precious woman that was in my life who was just removed herself from it. And sometimes those pains, they can hurt deeply. I've gotten a lot better at coming to terms with them and making sense out of them. But they still do hurt, they still hurt. But this message more so is something that was given to me as I was listening to this lecture about, well, not more of a lecture, but more of just a video about some of the astrological energies that are in the air. And this message is more so about spiritual warfare and what spiritual warfare really looks like. Everybody has their own tools, their own weapons to combat, their own tools to heal. But spiritual warfare is not always as pretty. It's not always as direct and combative as it's made as a physical warfare, I guess you could say. For example, it's sometimes it's actually holding space for people, holding love energy space for people, even though they may not appreciate it. Sometimes spiritual warfare is sending love and bliss to people, even though they may not appreciate it. Sometimes spiritual warfare is not saying those things that could be harmful because you want to protect the spirit of the individuals that you care about, and you're holding space and defending a truth that you could share that could be life shattering or could be timeline shattering. You choose to keep that to yourself because you're not trying to cause more damage. You're promoting healing is what the goal is. There's enough people out there damaging people, and have it under the cloak of spiritual war, or they're doing God's work. But in actuality, what they're doing is feeding their ego as they're creating more turmoil out here in the public arena. And people are having to go into private spaces to try to heal from that turmoil rather than you being the healer, because that's really what this should be about. There's enough people who are in the combative stance, And so spiritual healers, those of us who are actually empaths, those of us who actually have the deepest levels of love within us, we often have to hold space for these situations because it's not often celebrated, and it's the harder path, to not say those things that could be offensive. Even though you're being offended in the moment, you're still choosing to not say those things that could harm. And that right there is spiritual warfare. It's spiritual warfare because you're actually a guardian. You're protecting someone's spirit. You're protecting someone's heart by not saying those things. Now, sometimes in certain situations, you do need to say those things that need to be said that may actually harm someone. But more times than not, that's not the path that we choose to take as healers. It's not the path that we choose to embrace, nor is that actually the path for those of us who are angelic beings, because we don't want to create more destruction and then claim it to be healing. Now, sometimes, like I said, I have to reiterate, sometimes you do have to, let's say a shoulder gets jointed out of place, and you might have to hit it hard, bang it hard to get it back in place. That was healing, and it was based on the situation that took place. But still, you still massage that shoulder, you still massage that muscle, you don't just continue to try to tear it out of its socket, So those places, that time is necessary. But all in all, it should still result in care and love and compassion. And you have to be mindful of the subject that you're dealing with. If you try to treat every ailment the same with every person, like everybody is the same, you're not moving under the guise of divine alignment. You're moving with ego, because now you're not taking into account the actual subject of who you're saying you want to heal. So now it's more so about your ego personality being fulfilled and you claiming to be a healer, rather than you actually taking into account who you're dealing with and finding a special way to work with those individuals. And it's deserved. You should be finding a special way to work with that individual. It shouldn't be a blanket way, a blanket covering, because that in consideration lets lets the higher realms, it showcases the higher realms downloading into you. If you have the ability to have the discernment to know, because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about discernment. I'm just saying it in a long fashioned way, but you should be taking those things into account if you really love. And people are going to just show you in how they respond when your healing is actually penetrated, and you're actually giving remedy. And it'll be remedy because it's coming from the divine source, coming from the supreme being. So it's a fine line there between what spiritual warfare is and how it looks, and how oftentimes empaths, healers have to really stand in the gap, have to really hold that space for care, even though we may be being attacked. It's like sometimes when you're trying to help somebody who's under a seizure, sometimes they may mess around and hit you and strike you as you're trying to hold their body and keep their body from hurting itself, And that's just what you're dealing with sometimes when you're dealing with spiritual healing, spiritual guidance, and spiritual warfare. But people like to put on this armor and try to pull out these swords and claim that they are doing spiritual work, when in actuality they're really doing damage. They're really doing damage to people and to themselves, because they're not actually concerned about the healing that needs to take place and trying to structure in a way that's optimal for that person. They're not doing that. They're trying to just satisfy their ego by trying to call out things and trying to put it under the guise of, this is spirit giving me this to reveal to you. It's like, no, first of all, the supreme being is who created me. And if I'm telling you that I'm aligned and I'm in prayer and I'm constantly in this work, respect what I'm telling you and give me the information in the way, and give me that due respect as you share this information with me. Structure in a way that if you're being led by the supreme being, you're going to be given the proper way to structure the information that's going to be optimal for my healing. Because this is what we're talking about, my healing. We're not talking about your ego. We're not talking about your need and desire to express what you want to express so that you can feel fulfilled. We're talking about the fulfillment actually coming from my healing, is what you're saying. So this is what you often deal with. You deal with a lot of these ego personalities that have taken the shape, that have taken the guise of being angelic and being tuned in, but in actuality they are just alternate forms of the ego being expressed, once again because they're not using discernment to showcase that they're being led by the divine and by the supreme being, because the supreme being is going to always give you the codes relative to that particular door. They're going to give you the keys relative to that particular door. It's not going to be just a blanket way of doing things, because the supreme being knows that we are all individuals and that we are all unique on our own accords. So there are certain principles that can be used across the board for sure, but when you start getting into the specifics and the details, because you're dealing with the individuals, well, now you need to take those things into account. And if you're not taking those things into account, then we have to wonder what is actually leading and guiding your healing practice. You understand what I'm saying? So it's interesting to deal with, but just know that you not saying those things that could be more destructive and that could cause more harm than love. That's you doing great work. That's you doing angelic work, and keep doing that angelic work. And thank you for all that you do. I just wanted to put this message out. Spiritual warfare doesn't always look like it sounds when it comes to being at war. It's often about holding space, sending those prayers up to the angelic realm, allowing the angels to do their work on the inside of individuals, seeing them in the best space that you can see them in, seeing them in those healed spaces, seeing people in those spaces of understanding, and being able to take the wisdom of the heart from your heart into their heart, and allowing healing to take place over time. That's also what spiritual warfare looks like. And more times than not, it looks like that. Now, like I said, it's not the same as physical warfare, so you don't get all of the glory and the grandeur sometimes of what the physical warfare is. And that's okay, because our ancestors and the angels in the realms of the invisible, they see who you are, they see how you've been pouring into people, and you'll be rewarded accordingly as you deserve to be, because what you put out there, what you give to people, how you choose to serve others is how you are going to be served. So continue to live love, continue to live joy. When you need to put on some armor and you need to pull out those samurai swords, you pull those out and then you put those back in, because we don't lead with the sword, but we just have to. We know when to use the sword. And that's how it goes. So bliss and power, love. May your world continue to be blessed in every aspect of it. May you be healed in every aspect of it. My face is healing. I had to put that salve on. I've been using some jacked up soaps here recently, but it's okay. I need to do what I need to do. But I'm about to walk over here, grab something to eat real quick before I head to the workspace. But just wanted to put this video up, send some love, send some joy to the tribe, to the family. Aunt Bishop on deck, signing out. Bliss and power every hour. Keep committing to your great. I love you and appreciate you. Keep growing.